Alright, continue now.
Away we go.
Boat ride, so. And we're going along the Chicago River Walk.
You can see all these boats are waiting to get in the lock. Some of them are over-eager and crowding the lane as we exit. If you ever find yourself in their position, don't do that. The little golden nuggets of wisdom I like to offer up to people. You can see the guide wall off to our left. Back when giant ships used to come and go from the Chicago River, they would follow this guide wall, would lead them right into the Chicago Lock. And some of you might already be able to make out as we approach on our left-hand side. And don't worry if you're on the right-hand side of the boat, you'll see it as we exit. We're going to pass our sister ship, the Victor L. Schlager, and the newest member of the Chicago firefighting family, the Christopher Wheatley, Engine 58 and Engine 2, respectively. So the Schlager is going to be giving you a really good idea of what we used to look like when we were a active fireboat. We used to have 2 firefighting apparatus in the bow and 2 at the stern. Those are monitors, is what they're known as. They look almost like machine-mounted guns, but they're giant hoses. They can let you shoot water very far. With all 4 of our pumps going, we could move 10,000 gallons of water a minute. The Schlager could still move 12,000 gallons a minute. Remember, we were operational from 37 to 81. The Schlager is operational from 47 till current time. So she actually has a longer run history than we do. Then you got Engine 2, Christopher Wheatley, built in 2011. Did you hear that? That guy's voice went up 3 octaves. I thought he was going to have a really low baritone, but no. The guy was a soprano in the choir. I kid because I love to kid. Anyway, you're going to notice another feature shared by all 3 fireboats is that their low profile allows them to fit snugly underneath all the bridges in Chicago. They were replacing the steam-powered fireboats. Before this boat, you had to be powered by steam. Steamboats have smokestacks, and they require you to lift bridges for them to get from point A to point B, quick, fast, and in a hurry. So by allowing the boats to go underneath all the bridges without requiring them to move, you're saving time. Hopefully you're saving lives, saving property, but also you're saving money. It costs money to raise every bridge, and all these bridges still move. If you want to see them go up and down, they can do that. You can come back and see them on Saturdays and Wednesdays during the spring and fall as boats enter and exit the lake. It's pretty cool. They're called lift days, and commercial captains like myself, Eric, and Ray always get a kick out of the sailboats because they're not really used to being confined waterways. Here you can see the extension of the flyover. This thing is open now. They constructed it for 5 years. Actually surprised it's not still under construction. We're going on the Lakeshore Drive Bridge, and it's nice to see that they are working on the infrastructure here in the city, because I bike over this bridge every day. So let me welcome you to the main branch proper of the Chicago River, and if you'll notice, if you look over the side, the color of the water has changed. It is now a lovely blue-green color. It's because as the lake water enters the main branch, is the perfect habitat for blue-green algae. They love this. And they've colored the main branch of the Chicago River this lovely color. We do dye the river a healthy Kelly green on St. Patrick's Day, thanks a la the Plumbers Union. But the city loves this color of the water, evidenced by these buildings on the right. You'll see the color of the river reflected in the facade, or at the very least often the glass will be tinted to reflect the color of the river and the lake as well. Now if you look up to your left, you can see one of the newest additions of the skyline. That is Vista Tower, the St. Jane Hotel by Kinney Gang. That is the world's tallest structure built by a female-led architecture firm. Kinney Gang is an Illinois native. She is a fantastic world-renowned architect. She does structures all over the globe, and when she adds one to our skyline, it is no small matter. Chicago is known obviously for its architecture, but we're also known for our architects, and it's pretty awesome to see all that we have to offer it in a glance. And now we're going to be going right through the heart of it. If you keep looking up and to the left, you'll see another building of Kinney Gang's coming into view. It's going to be the one with the wavy balconies. That is Aqua. Something leads me to believe that she took Spanish and Latin at some point in her life, because a lot of her buildings have either Spanish or Latin names. So you can see the river is shared by all manner of aquatic boats. Here we got some kayakers. And the whistle. Whistle is very important. People always ask me, why don't you kayak in the river, Matt? Because I'd rather be on a boat, that's why. But you can see people out enjoying the beautiful holiday weekend to our left and to our right. This is nothing what the city used to look like, guys. This was, remember, we didn't industrialize our lakefront, but we did industrialize our riverfront. So there would have been warehouses, train switch yards, 1,000-foot-long lake freighters docked here, coming and going. Makes two of us. And now you're getting to see all this beautiful architecture. We've really changed how we view our river. Now in the 60s, 70s, it was still pretty industrial. You certainly weren't allowed to kayak in it. That's a new thing. Hello. As we get out from under Columbus Drive Bridge here. In front of us we got the Trump Tower. It's completed in 2009. We got a little bit of road traffic above me. Trump Tower completed in 2009 by architectural powerhouse Skidmore, Owings & Merrill, or if you want to sound like you've been in the biz, SOM. Pretty cool. Its lead architect was Adrian Smith, known as the world's tallest architect. That's not a remark on his stature. He's not that tall, but he builds the tallest buildings in the world. If you've ever seen a photo of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, put it next to a picture of Trump Tower, you'll see they share many attributes. The difference is the Burj Khalifa is more than 2 times taller than the Trump Tower. That's the major difference. Now to the right you can see this beautiful building with a clock tower in it. That is the Wrigley building. Maybe you've chewed Wrigley's chewing gum. Maybe you've taken in a game at Wrigley Field. This is Wrigley building, same namesake. It's clad entirely in terracotta tile. Built between 1924 and 26 respectively. Each one of those tiles is individually numbered and washed by hand, tenderly and lovingly, or once a year, kind of like me. It's a way of passively fireproofing a building. It's something we're fairly fanatic about here in Chicago, for good reason. We'll get into that later. It was the tallest building in the city when it was built. 400 feet tall, they said you could see for miles. We're about to go under Michigan Avenue. The 1 mag mile is to the north, to our right. If you are going shopping, bring your wallet, bring your purse, and bring your credit cards, because ain't too much for little money there. This is one of the many double-decker bridges we have in the city here. Your Louis Vuitton, your Versace. You can tell I don't shop at those stores, I pronounce them wrong. Alright folks, we're going to be coming to our left, and as we do, I want to bring your attention up and to the left. You can see a building with a dome on the top and 3 highly ornamented water towers. If you can't hide them, gild the lily, right? That is the Jeweler building, built by Grant Anderson, Probst & White, 1927. Height of Prohibition. That is where whitesmiths, goldsmiths, silversmiths, they would all work there, and they would come and go with these precious metals and precious jewels and gemstones. And you know who else wanted to be in on the business of jewelry making? Al Capone. And he didn't really care how he got into that business, whether hook or by crook, as they say. So what they did to avoid the whole getting robbed on Monday on your way to work by Al Capone thing, they built an elevator for your car. You just drive your Studebaker or your Model T or whatever model you had. You take the elevator up to your level, and you go to work. Painless, barely an inconvenience. Now quickly, before we go onto the bridge, I'd like to draw your attention to the right. This sleek, stripped down black box. Beautiful example of, wait for it, black box modernism. Yes, you cannot make these names up. So this building over here was designed by Mies van der Rohe. Mies van der Rohe came to the United States in the 1930s from Germany. If you recall history, great time to come to the United States from Germany. He did not like superfluous ornamentation. He liked everything to be spick und span, neat und tidy. And that's exactly the way he designed his buildings. These very organic buildings that we'll be seeing in a moment were designed by one of Mises' students, Bertrand Goldberg. He took a very different opinion. He did not like right angles, so there aren't any in this building. Not even the toilets have right angles. Those are oval too. But this was supposed to be a city within a city. It has a marina, which is good because it would be awkward if it didn't. It is named Marina City. It had everything that you needed. Entertainment-wise, the House of Blues main stage was the movie theater, had an office that you could see behind it, bowling alley, ice skating rink. It also had more day-to-day features. You needed a tailor, well, they had one for you. You needed a grocery store, they had one for you. And they still offer valet parking. Don't worry, Steve McQueen does not valet your car. Some of you will get that joke. They've aged pretty well. They still look sleek and modern. Now off to our left, you can see the extension of the Riverwalk. The city spent $100 million. Inspired by San Antonio's Riverwalk in Texas. On a hot day, it's not uncommon to see people dipping their feet into the water. Pro tip, don't do that. The water is still slightly polluted, but it's getting better. The plan is that you should be able to swim in the Chicago River by 2030. By all means, come back. I'll film you from shore, and then we'll get you a nice tetanus shot. That's what we'll do. It's going to be great. But you can see all the people enjoying themselves. There really has been a sea change, unacknowledged, with how we view our river here. All these people on these seated benches over to our left, these stairs, that is the site of the Eastland disaster. All boats are inspected by the Coast Guard, but they're inspected only because a vessel that was rated to carry 600 people overburdened itself with 2,400 and then turned over, sadly trapping and killing 844 men, women, and children. The lesson we learned is that you need to make sure you can carry that many people. For example, we can carry 127 185-pound passengers. We carry less because, well, reasons. But we could, and it wouldn't affect our stability one iota. Ahead, we got the Wells Street Bridge. It's another one of the double-decker bridges. The upper deck is for trains entering and exiting the loop. We don't really have a subway. We have an elevated rail, and that's why people refer to it as the L. And if you do want to take a quick ride around the loop, it's pretty cool. Oftentimes, people ask me, Matt, where can I go and get a good steak? I do recommend the Chicago Cut Steakhouse. No, they do not pay me in delicious Delmonico steaks, medium rare, but I always tell them what I would order in case someday they want to. No one's reached out to me yet. Pretty hard to miss here. We are the only fireboat. Anyway, I can recommend them. They're very good. So can Captain Ray to that end. As we get out from under Wells Street, guys, you're going to want to look to the right. We're going to give you a beautiful eyeful of Art Deco architecture. This is the merchandise mart that's coming into view. You see those vertical lines, the racing stripes meant to draw your eyes up. This was the largest building in the world when it was built and would remain so until the Pentagon was constructed. 4.1 million square feet of showroom floor space, 7.5 miles of hallway and corridor. And no, those are not giant Pez dispensers. Everyone always thinks so, but that would be weird. Those are the titans of industry. It is pretty cool to think there's 1 more mile and a half inside this structure than it is distance from my house to the other. At night, they project art onto the facade of the mart. The building was snatched up by the Kennedy family in 1947 for a song and sold in 1996 for $600 million. Not a bad profit, right? Welcome to Wolf Point, everybody. This is sort of the heart of it all. This is the confluence of the north, the south, and the main branches. If you look to your left, you can see this beautiful curving green structure that you've been building. The park in front of it was this boat's dock while she was an active fireboat. From there, we could go north, we could go south, we could go east, we could enter the lake. We were very well positioned. You have to remember again that we industrialized our river. Right where the river ended, buildings were just constructed straight up. So if you want to fight a fire on 4 sides, you very much needed a fireboat to accomplish that. We're going to be going north here, where he's got his right blinker on. And you'll notice again that the color of the water is changing. It's not dirty. Part of this north branch and the Chicago River flows through Forest Preserve. As a result, the tint of the water has changed. This is kind of cool. If you see this little park off to the right, you can see the balcony, or rather the railing there. Inside the railing is a circle with a Y in it. That is the municipal device of the city of Chicago. It symbolizes precisely where we are, because if you ever go on Google Earth and you see the confluence of the north, the south, and the main branches, they make a Y. And the Chicago flag wasn't designed until later. The municipal device is older and it's everywhere. Now that you know what to look for, you'll see it everywhere. Manhole covers, theaters, post offices, as well as libraries, all feature them. Heading to your left, you can see this pink building. That is the oldest structure that we're going to see on today's tour. That was 1897 when it was constructed. It was converted into in 1908 to cold storage. Look at how thick those walls are, about 3 feet thick. It was so well insulated with horsehair and cork, of all things, that when in 1988 architect Harry Weiss was tasked with the job of converting it into condos and office space, he had to wait for the building to thaw for 3 months before he could make change one. He's also responsible for these river cottages. That was another example of early movement to the Chicago River. Here we go, we're approaching the Kinsey Street Bridge. If you'll notice these cluster piles, these bundles of telephone pole-sized pieces of lumber. Notice particularly this one with a white sign on it. In 1991, they were driving piles and they breached one of the many miles of tunnel under the river, 64 miles of tunnel beneath the river. They used to bring coal and other stuff, and they breached it. And then in 1992, the breach was discovered because the city only employed one person to inspect all 64 miles of tunnels. So it took him a long time to find it, but find it he did. And of course, he ran it right up the flagpole and changes were made immediately. Yeah, I wish. That's not what happened. The tunnel flooded to fill the volume of the Merchandise Mart twice with water and flooded all of downtown in 1992. Called the Great Flood of Chicago, it was not good times had by anyone. Even though this fireboat was in private hands, we were actually one of the first on the scene. They were throwing all manner of debris to kind of staunch the flow of water. Eventually, they had to call in divers from Milwaukee to find and block the leak. Captain Ray is going to spin us around here. But before we do, I want you to look to your right. This is the East Bank Club. This is a very posh health and fitness spa that I do not belong to for many reasons. But those windows are not at eye height. They're allowing light to enter, but you can't see out for good reason. Because when that building was built, you didn't want to see the river. It was a very industrial river, nothing much to see. Now look to your left. People are paying a premium to hear the dulcet tones of my voice, up to 2 times daily. I was actually about to put $50,000 down on one of those, but being me, I spent it on avocado toast. I still stand by my decision. It was delicious. Captain Ray's gonna poke our nose over here and spin us around. And part of the unofficial part of the tour, I won't go into much about it, but we're going to be heading back towards the Kinsey Street Bridge. If you care to Google Kinsey Street Bridge, Dave Matthews Band, at your leisure. There's a fun story about that. Some of you are wondering, yes, is it? Yes. Fun to read it. You wouldn't want to have been there. Kinsey Street Bridge, Dave Matthews Band. I didn't tell you. Sometimes if the wind is from the west, you can smell chocolate. There's the Blomer's Chocolate Factory, just about a block and a half west of us. But in all seriousness, and to sort of highlight the change in attitude that Chicagoans have taken with respect to our river, now when you build on the river, you must include 40 feet of public access to the water. And that's how much we've cleaned the river, that's how much of an emphasis we've placed on the river, and people truly do want to be down here. That's why you're seeing everyone on the Riverwalk. That's why you're seeing people kayak, rent little boats that sometimes get into our way. All of that and more. For those of you on the bow, don't ever say I didn't do anything for you. Get your cameras out, guys, because we're going to go back onto the Kinsey Street Bridge, and you are going to be greeted with what I personally feel is the best photograph that you're going to get offered today. Wedding party after wedding party, often engagement parties as well. They'll get their photos taken with this view in mind. So as we come out from under the bridge, guys, you're going to be greeted with a beautiful collage of architecture, which begs the question, why do we get to enjoy such awesome architecture in the city of Chicago? Come back with me in my Wayback Machine. Let's talk about it. The city was founded in 1833, or rather received its charter. There were people here before that, but only a couple hundred. By 1871, we were a city of 300,000. Now, I'm no statistician. Seeing as how I'm wearing shoes, I can't count to 20 very well today. But that's a phenomenal rate of growth. What do you build with when you have to house that many people that quickly? Well, we built everything out of wood. Our homes, our streets, our sidewalks, all of it out of wood. And unfortunately for us, the summer and early fall of 1871, we were encountering drought-like conditions. On October 8th, 1871, 150 years ago, well, little less, but we're getting there. On Mrs. O'Leary's property, not too far south from us now, the story alleges that a cow kicked over a lantern. I've never known Irish cows to be much of an arsonist. The city had a bit of a beef to pick with Miss Catherine O'Leary. Some people say the news steered everyone into the wrong direction of mistrust. That's what I heard. The things that they said about Mrs. O'Leary were utterly unbelievable. We don't know how the fire started, but she was asked to move along not too long after. Yes, I am doing this on purpose. I digress. We don't know how the fire started, but start it did. It was carried aloft. Embers were pushed by strong winds that evening, and because essentially we were a tinderbox, and also we coated everything with pitch, because it's the 19th century, that's how you waterproof stuff. You cover it with even more flammable stuff. It was a shoo-in that we were going to burn down that night, and we did. Fire burned for 3 days. We had a state-of-the-art fire department with 175 active firefighters and 17 horse-drawn, steam-powered fire engines, all deemed adequate for the job. Normally it would have been. It was just, that was a perfect storm of circumstances. The city ultimately was devastated. You can imagine everyone fleeing. Right here, these bridges weren't around, but there were other bridges. They were carrying everything that they had with them, and oftentimes were forced to leave all of their earthly possessions behind them to be pilfered by people coming after them, and then left to burn in the fire as it continued on its course. It burned 2.5 miles further north. It got as far as Fullerton Avenue. It destroyed 17,000 individual structures. It made 1/3 of the population, 100,000 people, homeless, and very sadly lost, or rather cost, 300 people their lives. Could have been much worse. There was a real question as to whether Chicago could rebuild, but here's the thing. If you look to your left, you'll notice we're still rebuilding. Every time we build a new structure, we're living that legacy of rebuilding. That fire offered us something special, a clean slate. We would not be the city that you're marveling at right now without the opportunity to rebuild. And that's why we're called the second city. It's not a comparison between us and any other cities in the United States. It's because we rebuilt ourselves. The river and the lake are natural features, but at the time of the Chicago fire, we were already the linchpin connecting a transcontinental rail line. We still are. And at that point, the railroad might have been a natural feature. So as you can see, we continue to beautify the Riverwalk off to our right. You can see these hydroponic gardens. That allows fish to procreate. That's where they go to Netflix and chill. We used to have only 4 species of fish here in the Chicago River. We have over 60 now. And you can fish the Chicago River. I don't quite recommend that you eat them. Maybe catch and then release very, very quickly. But you can fish. Not uncommon to see youngsters learning how to cast a line here in the Chicago River. So up ahead on the left, you can see an example of a ground scraper. We don't just have tall buildings, we have lower ones too. That is the Reed Murdoch Building, built in 1914. It's on the National Register of Historic Places. When it was constructed, it was built to be a dry goods warehouse, and you can see a highly stylized wheat motif on the facade. If you count, you'll see the number of bays is not symmetrical. There's only 5 on the western portion of the clock tower and 6 on the eastern. As they expanded LaSalle Street, they had to demolish the western end of the structure, and then they bookended it, hoping you wouldn't notice. But that is where I come in, you see? Now, it is now the headquarters for Encyclopedia Britannica. For those of you 30 years of age or younger, an encyclopedia is like Wikipedia, but in analog book form. And a book is this thing that's like a Kindle with pages that you must turn regularly if you want to read through the whole thing. It's a lot of fun. Encyclopedias were expensive. You used to have to get them on layaway. Start with Aardvark, work your way down. Oh, see, I see it. Look, there's someone with their feet in the water. Oh, man, don't be like that person. Oh, no. I'm going to help them out, don't worry. Over to our right, you can see this beautiful building, my favorite, 55 East Wacker. This is what I call the Danny DeVito of architecture. Everything you need, nothing you don't, just raw power line. It's an example of brutalism. And again, remember, don't put your feet in the water, because while it's getting cleaner, it's not clean enough to put your feet in the water. He's on his, he's Instagramming. He's not listening to me. It's all right. Está sucia. Up ahead to your right, you can see a green building.
Hey, you gotta look behind you. Stay to your right.
Todos digan puto.
Stay to your right.
Tranquilo, bebé.
No rear view mirror on a boat. You have to look behind you. You're gonna lose your life there. Yo pensé que estabas pintando para...
Yo también,
So this is what I like to refer to as a teachable moment. Don't do that. Boats weigh a lot, and kind of like elephants, they're actually very silent when they move. This is a good lesson. All right, getting back to the matter at hand. Did my blood pressure drop a little bit? Feeling good?
You're good, you're good.
We're all good. This is all part of the experience, my friends. We're going to have you looking up and to the right. You're going to see the only part of the city where building abuts building abuts building. It reminds me a lot more of the skyline of Manhattan than it does the skyline of Chicago. It speaks to the value of real estate. This is actually the narrowest skyscraper when it was built, and it's next to the London House. London House actually offers very good views west of the Chicago River. If you don't know what you're doing later today, I can recommend you go to the top of the London House. It's a hotel, but you don't have to go stay at the hotel to enjoy the view from the bar at the top. Pretty cool. Coming into view on the left-hand side, you can see a building with flying buttresses. Looks like it might be more at home in the 12th century than in the 21st. That was, for many years, the Tribune Tower, was where WGN broadcast from. It is now condominiums. It's on its way to being completed soon. Again, it's just speaking to the change that we've experienced here in the city of Chicago. So for people who aren't from Chicago, if you're getting lost, you don't know what to do, if you see someone walking a Pomeranian or a very tiny dog, they live downtown. Those dogs don't actually walk that far. It's very easy to determine someone lives downtown. So this is really cool, guys. We're going back under Michigan Avenue. It's so named because the lake used to come this far west. This was actually the start of the lake now. Every bit of land to your left and to your right, my friends, is landfill. And that's going to play an important part of our story. Off to our left, you can see the iPhone store. That was actually where the first non-native resident, Monsieur Jean-Baptiste Pointe de Sable, half Haitian and half French gentleman, set up shop. This is also my reminder for people with cell phones and nice cameras. You do not need to dangle them over the side of the boat to get that photo, because phones don't float and we don't turn around for them. 1,000 years from now, someone's going to be digging up your phone, and they're going to know if you swiped right or left. Do you want that on you? No one does. To our left, you can see another building. This is NBC Tower. If you're a fan of such fine family programming as the Jerry Springer Show, well, then you love this building. Someone was asking me, how do you become a TV host after becoming a mayor? You got to bounce a check like a Super Bowl. That's all I'll say about that. And anyway, this is Captain Derek's favorite building. It looks like it's Art Deco, but it's not. It's Eco Deco. And Eco Deco, it's fun to say, it's fun to hear. You're a cool group. Let's say it together on 3, right? 1, 2, 3.
Eco Deco!
That's awesome. Yeah. Can you guys come back next week and do this again?
Yes.
That was great. Up to your right, you're getting a really good view of Aqua Tower again. This is pretty neat. As we get out from under Columbus Drive, you'll notice that the city over here to our right is built on 3 levels. You got Wacker Drive, Lower Wacker Drive, and then I think it's technically, like in Dante's Inferno, like the 7th layer of hell. Lower Wacker Drive. Unless you like giving yourself a migraine, I urge you just to stay away. Your cell phone won't know where you are. Your passengers are going to be freaking out. Where are you going? How do we get here? You're going to quickly start questioning life decisions that you made if you find up yourself on Lower Wacker Drive. Lower Wacker Drive even more so. So don't do that. Just stay away. You can see the Swiss Hotel right here, the veritable Toblerone of architecture, designed by Harry Weiss, the same guy who did the river cottages. He was a sailor in the Navy. Nothing more evocative of a triangular sail than a triangular building. And we're also seeing another view of Vista Tower. Don't worry, those cords don't hold it up. People are thinking that. Those are for window washers, I'm sure. But if you look up, you can see there are 2 levels where there are no windows. That is not by accident, that is by design. We are known as the Windy City more for our politicians full of hot air than for the winds that we are regularly afflicted with this time of year. But nevertheless, we are afflicted with some very strong winds, and you do have to deal with that from an engineering standpoint. There are a whole lot of interesting ways to deal with that, but perhaps one of the most elegant is simply to allow the wind to pass right through. And that is exactly what is achieved with that. That is known as a blow-through floor. It allows the wind to just go right through the structure and thus lessens the overall pressure on the surface of the structure. Pretty cool, huh? So guys, we're passing a little memorial. Again, during World War II, all of the submarines used by the U.S. Navy were built by and large part in and around the Great Lakes, and those that were would pass through the Chicago Lock and go all the way right down to the Gulf of Mexico, ultimately. So we're approaching Lakeshore Drive, or as I like to call it, LSD. It's not just me, it's a lot of Chicagoans. If you get a phone call from your family friend and they're from Chicago and they say, I'm driving home on LSD, they're fine. If they call you from Wichita, encourage them to pull over, wait it out, everything's going to be cool, copacetic, as they say. But it offers fine views of the city north and south. If you have a car that you've driven here with, you could take that ride. Now, ahead and to our left, you can see this black building. Depending on your age or how stressful 2020 was, it either looks like a fidget spinner or a flask of delicious whiskey. The cap of that flask does not spin. It is a French restaurant called Cité, which, if I remember correctly, is French for very expensive. It only spins if you've had 2 bottles of Bordeaux, and then it spins like a top. That is the only private residential structure east of Lakeshore Drive. Remember, I just told you that all of the land left and right of us is landfill. Chicago, however, had a very interestingly worded charter that said you may not build east of Lakeshore Drive on land. And just like your English teacher and your friend who's a lawyer reminded you that words matter, they do. So when the city sent a gaggle of lawyers to confront the developers replied saying, we understand we can't build on land east of Lakeshore Drive, which is precisely why we're building on landfill. And then all of the air was sucked out of the room, some lawyers lost their jobs, and the city very hastily reworded the charter to include the phrase, and landfill. So here you can get another good view of that building off to our left. It's built on landfill, and in addition to that, it's also built on air rights. When a train track is laid down, the company, whatever company it is, they own the air above that train track up to the height of 2,000 feet. This is sort of an interesting thing. If you've ever been curious why we don't have super tall skyscrapers above 2,000 feet like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, it's because above 2,000 feet, Uncle Sam owns the airspace. We'll never have a structure half a kilometer tall. It just won't happen. But in any event, if you lease the air rights above a train track, which they're very happy to let you do for a lot of money, by the way, you can put your building up there too. A lot of buildings on the south branch of the Chicago River, which we didn't visit today, but sometimes you do, they're built on top of air rights of train tracks. It's pretty cool how they get around certain rules and regulations. All you gotta do is pay someone enough and, you know, it can happen. So we're getting another good view. For those of you that maybe didn't see it the first time, these are the sister ships, rather our sister ship is the Victor L. Slager, the fireboat ahead, and then the engine number 2, Christopher Wheatley. And you can see this marine safety structure here. It looks like it should be moored home at the Chesapeake Bay. That is where the Marine Police, the Coast Guard, Homeland Security, Fire Department, obviously, right? They're there. The Conservation Police, we playfully call them the Geese Police. And if you're curious what you call one Conservation Police member, it is Goose Police. A lot of people don't know that, but it is. And anyway, over there you can see what looks like a small Navy Corvette, the gray boat over there. In order to get the cadets in Annapolis helm time and training and introduced to a command structure, a top-down mentality that is any armed forces or even merchant marine craft, even this boat. There's a captain, crew member, everyone on the way down until me. In any event, those boats were designed to help those cadets in Annapolis get that experience so that by the time they went to fleet, they were acclimatized somewhat to, you know, giving orders, to receiving orders, responding a certain way. You know, if someone asks you to do something on a boat, it's normal that you would repeat what you just heard. It does two things. It lets whoever just gave you that instruction know that you heard them correctly, or if you repeat something back incorrectly, they know you didn't hear them right. You can say it again. All these little things. Bye, buddy. So we're going to be treading water here, which is a fancy way of saying treading water. We're going to be holding station. We're going to be waiting for that lock to empty itself of boats once again. It looks like we'll have a few guests going in the lock with us. That's always the case. It's a lot of fun. Sometimes the lockmaster will give instructions, as you heard on the way coming in. It's very important. Just like Captain Ray, he's in charge of all of us. Our safety, our lives are in his hands. Same thing is true of the lockmaster. When we're inside that locked basin, they are, very high up on the totem pole of everything you need to know about in that moment. So when they issue commands, like, hey, don't do that, put on a life jacket, stop. It's a good thing to listen. You'll notice that all of the non-commercial boats are required to have their occupants wear life jackets because we're an inspected passenger vessel. The Coast Guard is well aware that we have more than enough for everyone on board today. So that's why we're not required to have it in mind. So guys, this is a great photo opportunity. Again, if you got a camera or a smartphone or just want to burn it into your mind, go for it. They say in 20 years you won't recognize the skyline of Chicago, and I kind of believe it. It's not so much what's going to be built up and tall, it is a lot of what's happening at the water. It's the interaction of buildings in the city and the river and the lake, and it's fun to see all this construction that's still going up. There's something like 20 buildings going up around the city right now. Some commercial, some residential, some mixed use. And so it really is, just from someone's perspective who's lived here their whole life, I love seeing that. I love learning about the architects that make that possible. And it's particularly nice to know that that's jobs. That's a whole lot more than just an awesome building being built. That's work for someone. So folks, I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to mosey around with you. I'm not just some austere voice on the right-hand side of the boat. I'm also a fun guy. I'm going to come around and talk to you. Make sure you're having a good time. Captain Ray's got some awesome music. Captain Eric is still manning that bar. He was mentioning it one time someone tipped Captain Eric $300 to shave his beard, and he did it.
Whoa.
Someone then tipped him $400 to grow it back, and he did that too. So amenable Captain Eric is. He knows card tricks, quick with a joke, but he won't light up your smoke because there's none of that on board the fireboat. All right, folks. Captain Ray's got some good music tuned up.
See you in the next video.